Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Nimai Nitai. Jai Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman, Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman, Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman. Jai Singhadev Narahari Prahlad Maharaj, Jai Bhakta Prahlad Singhadev Prahlad Maharaj, Jai Bhakta Prahlad. Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatadishtarine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatadishtarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktarena. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Namo Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Oh Ranga, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma Shri Guru Charana Padma Keval Bhakati Sadma Vando Moi Savadhan Mate Vando Moi Savadhan Mate Yahar Prasade Bhai He Bhavatariya Jai Yahar Prasade Bhai He Bhavatariya Jai Krishna Prapti Hoy Aha Hoite Krishna Prapti Hai Ahai को रिया क्या गुरुमुख पद्म वाक्या चित्ते ते कोरिया क्या और न करी मने आशा और न करी हमने आशा श्री गुरु चरण रति से उत्तम गति श्री गुरु चरण रते से उत्तम गति ये प्रसादे पूरे सर्व आशा ये प्रसादे पूरे सर्व आशा चखुदान दिल जे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से चखुदान दिल जे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित प्रेमा भक्ति यहाँ हैते अविद्या विनाश जाते प्रेमा भक्ति यहाँ हैते अविद्या विनाश जाते हृदय गाय आहार चरित वेदे गाय आहार चरित श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु धम जनर बंधु लोकनाथ लोकेरा जीवन लोकनाथ लोकेरा जीवन हाँ प्रभु कर दया दे हमारे पद छाया हाँ प्रभु कर दया दे हमारे पद छाया हे बेजाज घोष त्रिभुवन हे बेजाज घोष त्रिभुवन जय प्रभुपदा 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 श्रील प्रभुपदा प्रभुपाद 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 जय प्रभुपाद Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Vishutarine. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. सब लोग बोलिए जोर से. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Parthasarthi Radha Parthasarthi Radha. Jaya Lalita Vishakha Jaya Lalita Vishakha Lalita Vishakha Jaya Lalita Vishakha. Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Sita Ram Lakshmana Hanuman Sita Ram Lakshmana Hanuman. Jaya Prahlad Narasimha Jaya Prahlad Narasimha Prahlad Narasimha Jaya Prahlad Narasimha. Jaya Prabhupada 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 Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Ita Gaura Haribol 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 Gaura Haribol. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Ram Sankirtan ki jai. जाओ विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राज का चार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद अभिचरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रीला प्रभुपाद की. इस्कॉन फाउंडर आचार्य बेबी टी फाउंडर आचार्य सेवियर ऑफ द होल वर्ल्ड जगत गुरु श्रीला प्रभुपाद की. जहाँ विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राज का आचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस शिला भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद जी की जय. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. नामाचार्य शीला हरिदास ठाकुर की जय. प्रेम से बोलो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय. श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन की जय. श्री वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की जय. पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय. श्री नवदीप मायापुर धाम की जय. श्री अयोध्यापुरी धाम की जय. गंगा माई की जय. यमुना माई की जय. भक्ति देवी की जय. तुलसी महारानी की जय. समवेत भक्तवृंद की जय. निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories unto Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada की जय. गुरु वंदना बोलेंगे. हमारे गुरुदेव के चरण कमल ही एकमात्र साधन है
जिनके द्वारा हम शुद्ध भक्ति प्राप्त कर सकते हैं। मैं उनके चरण कमलों में अत्यंत भक्ति एवं श्रद्धा पूर्वक नतमस्तक होता हूँ। उनकी कृपा से जीव भौतिक क्लेशों के महासागर को पार कर सकता है तथा कृष्ण की कृपा प्राप्त कर सकता है। मेरी एकमात्र इच्छा है कि उनके मुख कमल से निकले हुए शब्दों द्वारा अपनी चेतना को शुद्ध करूं। उनके चरण कमलों में अनुराग ऐसी सिद्धि है जो समस्त मनोरथों को पूर्ण करती है। वे मेरी बंद आंखों को खोलते हैं तथा मेरे हृदय में दिव्य ज्ञान भरते हैं। जन्म जन्मांतरों में वे मेरे प्रभु हैं। वे प्रेमा भक्ति प्रदान करते हैं और अविद्या का नाश करते हैं। वैदिक शास्त्र उनके चरित्र का गान करते हैं। हे गुरुदेव, हे प्रभुपाद, करुणा सिंधु तथा पतितात्माओं के मित्र, आप सबके गुरु एवं सभी लोगों के जीवन हैं। हे गुरुदेव, हे प्रभुपाद, मुझ पर दया कीजिए तथा मुझे अपने श्री चरणों की छाया प्रदान कीजिए। आपका यश तीनों लोकों में फैला हुआ है। जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। पकड़ के खड़े हो जाइए।
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Balaba Girivanadhari Gopi Jana Balaba Girivanadhari Yashoyanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashoyanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balaba Girivanadhari
Gopi Jana Balaba Girivanadhari Achoyanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoyanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajkacharya Astu Tarasata Shishi Mad Iskcon founder Acharya's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswati Vyasa Tato Jayamudirayet Nasta Prayeshu Abhideshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamar Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So, today there are many celebrations of departed acharyas. as well as today is the first day of spring, Vasanti Panchami, and Saraswati Puj. So, Saraswati, of course, is the goddess of learning arts, music, wisdom, and the celebration of today will be there, and the ushering in of the spring season, Vasant. So I was asked to speak or read about some of the acharyas who have disappeared or departed acharyas. Is quite a big list of acharyas. Pundarik Vidyanidhi's appearance day, Raghunandana Thakur's appearance day, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami's appearance day, and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's disappearance day, and Srimati Vishnu Priya Devi, second wife of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance day. So about Pundarik Vidyanidhi, we can take a look at that. I will go to the biography of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Of course, we know that he, in Krishna Lila, Pundarik Vidyanidhi is Radharani's father. And he was one of the dear devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Vrishabhanu, King Vrishabhanu is the father of Radharani, and then he appears as Pundarik Vidyanidhi, and he's a very colorful personality. He was often seen dressed in very opulent clothing, and behaving like a materialist to misguide the materialistic people into thinking he was a materialist. Actually, he was a great lover of God. He also would be seen smoking a hookah, so he's a bit of an avaduta. So there are some pastimes. One time, the devotees in Jagannath Puri, they celebrate a particular occasion where the dress of Lord Jagannath, they don't remove the starch from the dress of Lord Jagannath. So Pundarik Vidyanidhi, he objected to this in his mind, and he thought, why are they not, washing out the starch from the dress of Jagannath? These pujaris are not following the particular rules and regulations, particular protocols for dressing Lord Jagannath. So that night, as he was sleeping, Jagannath and Balaram came to him in a dream, and they chastised him. How dare you criticize my pujaris? And they were slapping him on his cheeks. And of course, he was kind of enjoying this. And then the devotees noticed his cheeks were swollen next day. So a lesson there in Vaishnava Aparad. Once in Jagannath Puri, Pundarik Vidyanidhi met Swarup Damodar after long separation. In the joyful mood of friendship, Pundarik and Swarup Damodar wanted to take the dust from each other's feet. A scuffle began as they tried to simultaneously catch the feet of one another, but at the same time avoid having their own feet caught. Both being quite strong, neither could win. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu enjoyed the sporting play and everyone laughed. So we see that in Lord Chaitanya's Leelas, there's so many funny types of humorous behavior going on between the great devotees and great, like the Avaduta Lord Nityananda. Himself and Advaita Acharya would have this rasa going on, where Advaita Acharya would present himself as a smarta Brahmin, and Lord Nityananda was behaving like an Avaduta. When after Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had taken sannyas in Katwa and come back, on his way back, Lord Nityananda, they were in a place called Radha Desh in Nadia, and Lord Nityananda told one of the cowherd boys that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in such ecstasy that he thought he was in Vrindavan. And Nityananda instructed one of the cowherd boys who were there herding cows to go to the Shantipur, to the house of Advaita Acharya, and tell him to bring dry clothing for Lord Chaitanya. So as they were walking along the Ganga River, Lord Nityananda was telling Lord Chaitanya, yes, you've arrived in Vrindavan, and this is the Yamuna River. And so immediately Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went into ecstasy and he jumped into the Ganga. And he was swimming around thinking it was the Yamuna River, the glorious river where Lord Krishna would have his pastimes along the banks of the Yamuna River with the gopis and the cowherd boys. And then suddenly he saw Lord Advaita Acharya coming in a boat with clothing, and he thought, Advaita, what are you doing in Vrindavan? And then Advaita said, well, you're in Shantipur. You're near Shantipur. So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Lord Nityananda has cheated me. He's cheated me again. He's cursing Lord Nityananda. So these humorous things are going on in Chaitanya Leela. Pundarik Vidyanidhi had other names, Sri Vidyanidhi, Acharya Nidhi, Bhakti Nidhi, and Prema Nidhi, given by Lord Chaitanya. Simply by hearing his name, said Sri Gaur, the whole world becomes purified. Prema Nidhi's pure devotion caused Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to sometimes cry profusely and call out loudly, Bop, Father. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would sometimes call Pundarik Vidyanidhi, Father, Father, many times, because, of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna in the mood of Srimati Radharani. So he would say, Pundarik, Pundarik, Pundarik is my father, my dearmost friend. When will I see him again? Pundarik Vidyanidhi is King Vrishabhanu, Sri Radharani's father in the Vrindavan Leela. Continually floating in the sea of Krishna Prem, Pundarik often showed ecstatic bodily symptoms of tears, horripilation, falling unconscious. Whoever recites or hears the following narration of the meeting of Pundarik Vidyanidhi and Sri Gadadhar Pandit will receive the treasure of the love of God. When he first arrived in Navadvip, Pundarik Vidyanidhi disguised himself as a worldly sense enjoyer. Besides Mukunda, nobody knew that Pundarik Vidyanidhi was a pure Vaishnava. Today I will introduce you to a most exceptional Vaishnava, said Mukunda, as he took Gadadhar Pandit to meet Pundarik Vidyanidhi. They found Pundarik residing on an opulent brass bed covered with red satin sheets, silk pillows, and topped with a three-tiered canopy. A gem-studded pan box stuffed with fragrant spices and betel nuts waited within arm's reach. Two shiny brass spittoons stood as silent sentries beside the bed. Seeing the mirror, Seeing the mirror stained red from his chewing pan, Pundarik laughed heartily. 2 servants cooled him with peacock fans. Was this a Vaishnav or a prince wallowing in luxury, wondered Gadadhar Pandit. Of course, Gadadhar Pandit knew who he was. Gadadhar Pandit is actually an expansion of Srimati Radharani. So she knew, but this is a leela going on. Doubts arose in Gadadhar's mind about Pundarik's spiritual status. Reading his mind, Mukunda decided to reveal the highly exalted transcendental identity of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Mukunda recited Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 6th chapter, 35th verse. Always hankering to taste the blood of small children, Putana came to kill baby Krishna. However, because she offered her breast to the Supreme Lord, Putana attained the greatest blessings of being accepted as a mother of Sri Krishna. Haribo. So, in that Leela, Putana goes to Goloka Vrindavan. She is one of the wet nurses of Mother Yashoda, although she was a Rakshashi trying to kill Krishna. Krishna is so merciful. Hearing this verse, totally transferred Pundarik Vidyanidhi. A Ganga river of tears flooded his eyes. Perspiration rained from his body. His hairs stood erect. He ripped off his embroidered silk shirt, and while he thrashed his legs about, rolling on the ground, he wailed, "The Lord is infinitely merciful, yet he deprives me of his mercy." His clothes, brass bed, fine bed sheets, mirrors, spittoons, all his opulent trappings were ripped to shreds, smashed to bits. 10 men tried but couldn't restrain the force of Pundarik's ecstasy. The manifestation of Pundarik Vidyanidhi's pure love for Krishna competed with one another for some time. Finally, his spiritual emotions reached their peak, and he lost external consciousness. After witnessing this spectacular display of transcendental feelings, Gadadhar Pandit realized his offense in misjudging Pundarik Vidyanidhi to be a materialistic devotee. To rectify his mistake, he wanted to take initiation from Pundarik Vidyanidhi. 6 hours later, Shri Pundarik returned to external consciousness. Now he seemed calm and composed. Happily, he initiated Gadadhar Pandit. Pundarik Vidyanidhi is Srimati Radharani's father in Vraj pastimes. His samadhi is in the 64 samadhis area in Vrindavan. All glories to Pundarik Vidyanidhi. So the next personality is Raghunandana Thakur. Parents' Day of Raghunandana Thakur. So he appeared in Lord Chaitanya's time. Being called away on medical business, Mukunda Das once asked his young son, Raghunandana, to offer Rajbhog to the family deity of Gopinath. Raghunandana prepared everything timely, carefully, and with great devotion. When he made the offering, he remembered his father's order: make sure the deity eats. Ringing the bell, the simple boy told Gopinath deity, "Eat, eat." Raghunandana began crying when he saw the untouched food remaining on the deity's plate. He feared his father's anger for his inability to make the deity eat. Gopinath couldn't resist the child's intense devotion, so the Lord ate everything on the plate, leaving no remnants. Upon returning, Mukunda asked for Gopinath's Mahaprasad. Raghunandana said the deity ate everything. Astonished, Mukunda told his son to make the offering again. From a hidden place, Mukunda watched in total amazement as Raghunandana offered a laddu to Gopinath, but the Lord only took half a laddu. Mukunda understood that the deity only took half because he was still full from eating the lunch offering. Choked with divine emotion in appreciation of his pure devotee son, Mukunda embraced Raghunandana. Later in Jagannath Puri, Lord Gauranga lovingly asked Mukunda Das, "Who is the father and who is the son?" Mukunda replied, "Raghunandana is definitely my father, because he has given me Krishna Bhakti and showed me pure Krishna consciousness. In Krishna Lila, Raghunandana is Kandar Pa Manjari, or Pradyumna of the Chaturvyuha. His samadhi is in the 64 samadhi areas." Haribol. So his father Mukunda was the physician of the Emperor of Bengal. And one time the king of Bengal was sitting on a high platform with Mukunda, and the servant was fanning the emperor with a fan. And Mukunda, when he saw the fan, the peacock fan, he remembered Krishna, and he went into a swoon of ecstasy out of love of God. And he fell off the dais onto the ground. And the king went down, and everyone was quite astonished and perturbed that Mukunda Das may have injured himself. And then the king realized that this was not an ordinary person, and that Mukunda must have been some great devotee of the Lord. So that is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. The disappearance of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, one of our most prominent acharyas. He's also the spiritual master of Baladev Vidyabhushana Goswami. So these are very great acharyas. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur appeared 1600, 1700. So this is considered the middle sector of the Vaishnava history. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was 15th century, and then Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, they appeared kind of in the Antya period of the history. So Vishwanath Chakravarti appeared in the middle part of this current recent history of the Gaudiya Vaishnava. Saraswati Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta, he glorified Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur as the great crest jewel of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, and the caretaker of the Vaishnava traditions of devotional service. So he was glorified that way, and we'll probably read that here. Appearing in 1638, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur came in the disciplic succession from Narottam Das Thakur. Vishwanath took Diksha from Radharaman Chakravarti. Although married in his youth, his father saw that he was very detached. He's very much involved in the Vairagya mood. This is a common thread throughout the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Many of the devotees, like Raghunath Das Goswami, he was born in a very wealthy family. It's compared that the wealth of his father was that of King Indra of heaven, and his wife was as beautiful as the apsaras of the heavenly planets. But again, Raghunath Das kept trying to run away from home to go and see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and renounce material life, household life. So similarly, Vishwanath Chakravarti, as a teenager, his father had him married, got him married, because he was very detached from material activities. Ultimately, he became so indifferent to his marriage. Here it says he renounced family life and came to Vrindavan Dham and did Krishna Bhajan at Radhakund. He was known as the crest jewel of the Vaishnavas because of his pure devotion, scholarship, and realized perception of Radha Gokulananda's intimate conjugal pastimes. Many of his disciples claim that he is an incarnation of Rupa Goswami. Among all the Gaudiya Vaishnavacharyas, only Vishwanath Chakravarti comes close to matching Srila Rupa Goswami's profound realizations on the absolute truth. So Vishwanath Chakravarti, he wrote many commentaries on the books by the six Goswamis. He wrote commentaries on the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It's called Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu. And he wrote commentaries on Jiva Goswami's Bhakti Sandarpa, and he wrote commentaries on the works of other great devotees like Raghunath Das Goswami on their works. So he ended up writing over 40 books. All are commentaries and embellishments of the books of the six Goswamis. Vishwanath Chakravarti's name implies his position. Vishwanath means he who reveals the jewel of devotion to Vishwanath, Sri Krishna, the Lord of the universe. And Chakravarti means he who expands the chakra or circle of bhakti. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that Vishwanath Chakravarti was the protector, the guardian, and the acharya during the middle period, 16 to 1700, of the historical development of the Gaudiya Vaishnavism. At that time, many Smarta Brahmins were criticizing Narottam Das Thakur, who was empowered after Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left. Narottam Das Thakur was empowered by Lord Chaitanya to spread this Vaishnava movement throughout the entire of India, especially in Bengal. Navadvip was a center, intellectual center at the time in India. And these Smarta Brahmins started to dishonor the reputation of Narottam Das Thakur, and they actually branded him as a Sahaja. And this went on much into the 16th and 17th century, which was quite a few centuries after Narottam Das Thakur's appearance, 1 or 2 centuries. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he challenged these Brahmins, and he was able to defeat them and establish that although Narottam Das Thakur was born a Kayashta, and Kayashas were a very powerful community, but they were considered to be Sudra caste. And the Brahmins, they criticized, why is this Narottam Das Thakur, how can he be a Acharya and initiating Guru? He's not born a Brahmin. So they're very rigid, caste-conscious Brahmins at the time. But we know that Narottam Das Thakur was a great transcendental, empowered devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who completely transcended the mundane varnashram system. Many of Narottam Das Thakur's disciples were actually highly qualified pandits, and by simply associating with Narottam Das Thakur, he was able to convince them and prevail over their pride of being great scholars and so on, and they would surrender. These scholars would surrender and become his disciples. So this really enraged the Smarta Brahmins of the time. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was able to defeat these claims of the Smarta Brahmins and actually uphold the great fame of Narottam Das Thakur as a great devotee of the Lord. During his stay in Vrindavan, Vishwanath worshipped the deities of Radha, Gokulananda, and Sri Giriraj. So the Shila that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur had, the Govardhan Shila, was first worshipped by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it said that this Govardhan Shila was bathed by the tears of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Eventually, that Shila was given to Raghunath Goswami, along with a necklace of small conch shells called gunjas. That was passed down from Raghunath Das to Krishna Das Kaviraj, and then to Mukunda Das, then to Srimati Krishna Priya Thakurani, and subsequently to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So he had this Govardhan Shila, which he worshipped, that initially belonged to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Today, this Giriraj Govardhan deity resides in the Radha Gokulananda temple in Vrindavan. Some claim the Govardhan Shila is in Bhagavad Nivas in Raman Reti near the Iskcon Krishna Balaram Mandir. In a dream, Lord Krishna ordered Vishwanath to make commentaries on the Goswami's books. Immediately he started writing prolifically. So he would write on leaves, and he would sit under a tree and write these commentaries on these leaves. And the clouds would come and shield him from the intense sunshine. We know it gets very, very hot in the summertime in Vrindavan. One time there was a terrestrial downpour which flooded the entire area where Vishwanath was writing his Bhagavad commentaries. But miraculously, not a drop of water was able to touch the paper and the fabric on which he was writing. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur wrote beautiful commentaries on the Srimad Bhagavatam, especially on the 10th canto, but in all the cantos. And Srila Prabhupada oftentimes refers in his purports to the commentaries of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So he's extremely important to Charya. While compiling Mantrata Deepika, explanation on the Kama Gayatri, Vishwanath became perplexed according to his exhaustive research, which indicated 25 syllables in the mantra, this Kama Gayatri mantra. So he couldn't substantiate why Krishnadas Kaviraj wrote in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that the Kama Gayatri contains 24 and a half syllables, and that these syllables correspond to the 24 and a half moons present on Krishna's transcendental body. So Krishna has 20 fingernails and toenails, and then he has a full moon-like face, he has two half moon-like cheeks, and he has a half moon-like forehead. That's described by Rupa Goswami. So there was some confusion. So Radharani came in a dream and told Vishwanath Chakravarti, "Don't lament anymore. What Krishnadas Kaviraj wrote is true. He's also my confidential maidservant. And he knows everything about my most secret, innermost moods. This Kama Gayatri is the mantra for worshipping me. Indeed, I can be known by the syllables of this mantra. Without my mercy, no one can learn anything about the mystery of this mantra." So the Kama Gayatri is the worshipping of Srimati Radharani. The solution to the half syllable is found in the book Var Nagama Basvadi. Seeing this book, Krishnadas Kaviraj wrote as he did. the letter Ya, which is followed by the letter V, as in the words Kama Devaya Vidmahe, is considered to be a half syllable. This falls on Krishna's forehead because his forehead is shaped like the halo of a half moon. All the other letters of the mantra are full syllables and therefore full moons. Now wake up, check the book, and compile this evidence for everyone's benefit. So that's Radharani talking in a dream to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He instantly awaking, Vishwanath cried out in ecstasy, "Hey Radhe! Hey Radhe! Hey Radhe!" Having Radharani's darshan infused Vishwanath Chakravarti's writing with divine Shakti, he felt that he had been accepted as one of Srimati Radharani's confidential maidservants. His writings reflected this realization. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur wrote over 40 Sanskrit books on the science of pure devotion to Radha Giridhari. He also made the sweetest, most highly realized Rasika Tikas, commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, the works of Srila Rupa Goswami, Kavi Karnapura, and Narottam Das Thakur. So Kavi Karnapura was the son of Shivananda Sena. And when he was born and as a baby, he brought him to, Shivananda Sena would go to Jagannath Puri every year for Rath Yatra. And Shivananda Sena would organize all the various toll gates that they had to pass through, and he would organize the traveling arrangements for the devotees. So when Shivananda Sena brought his young son to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, at that time Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "You can call him Puri Das." And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took his big toe and stuck it in the mouth of this little child. And in that way, he became the greatest poet. And his name became Kavi Karnapurna. Haribol! This is all the ecstatic history of us devotees. We're blessed by all this wonderful and transcendental nectar of great personalities who appeared in Bengal 535 years ago. So there are many, many books here listed that commentaries by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Sri Krishna Bhavanamrita, Madhurya Kadambini, Vrajariti Chintamani, Chanmatkara Chandrikra, Swapna Vilasamrita, Sankalpa Kalpa Druma, and others. The life and teachings of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Pad give happiness, inspiration, and transcendental wisdom to the entire Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. We sincerely pray that after thousands of births, we will someday qualify to become a particle of dust under the shade of his lotus feet. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur ki. In Krishna Lila, he serves Srimati Radhika as Vinod Manjari. His samadhi is in the Radha Gokulananda temple courtyard. So he has many wonderful commentaries on Krishna's pastimes with Radharani. One time, Radharani, sometimes she would become very angry at Krishna. So Krishna would try to come and glorify her and eulogize her and make her feel happy. She said, "Radharani, your face is as beautiful as the full moon in the Sarat season." And Radharani looked at Krishna and she said, "Krishna, how dare you compare my face to the full moon?" She said, "The full moon, it's always waning, and it's only full once in a month. Do you think my face is only beautiful once in a month? She was very angry. She was so upset at him. And she said, and if you look at the moon, there's so many marks on this moon. My face is full of marks? So she became so upset that she ran up to a hill in Vrindavan, which had now become known as Morkutir. So as she was sitting on this hill, she was in Man Lila. Man means like anger and lamentation. And she was lamenting, and Krishna was thinking, oh, I can never please Radharani. What can I do? Well, actually, Radharani loves when I dance. Krishna is a great dancer, one of his qualities. So he disguised himself. He transformed himself into a peacock. And he went up on this hill where Radharani was sulking. And he started dancing in such an entrancing way that Radharani could not resist looking at his dancing. She was so amazed by his dancing. She was so enchanted by it. And as she was looking and looking, she noticed this peacock resembled a black rain cloud. It was very dark. And she said, this is not a peacock. Peacocks are, they're kind of greenish blue. And she was thinking, this must be some demon. Or maybe it's Krishna. Well, Krishna's a demon anyway, so it must be Krishna. So Krishna kept dancing and dancing, and she became so enthralled by this that she took the form of a peahen. And then they started dancing and dancing, and all the gopis became so attracted that they went up on this hill, and they started singing and playing and doing kirtan for Radha and Krishna in the form of peacocks, and this became the Sankirtan Yagya. Haribol! So this was given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, his commentary in the 10th canto. So we did Pundarik Vidyanidhi. We did Raghunandana, Vishwanath Chakravarti. Now what had happened is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was quite young, and he had married Lakshmi Devi, who had passed away. So then, to please his mother, he married again to Vishnu Priya Devi Dasi. And let's see what, is there anything about her? It says there she was born to Raj Pandit Sanat Mishra of Navadvip. She's the second wife of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and she's the incarnation of the goddess Radha. So that's what we have on her. And then there's the glorification of Raghunath Das Goswami. His appearance day is today. Yes. Raghunath Das Goswami appeared in the Radhadesh area near Shantipur. And as a young person, he would hear the glories of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur was living in Benapola, and he was chanting 300,000 names of God every day. And one personality called Ramachandra Khan became very envious of his becoming famous as a great saint. And he had sent a young prostitute, to try and dishonor and defame Haridas Thakur in Benapola. So that's the background. So after Haridas Thakur had converted this young prostitute to a pure devotee, she was chanting also 300,000 names of Krishna every day. But he left Benapola, and of course we know Ramachandra Khan received the anger of Lord Nityananda, the Lord Nityananda visited his village, and Ramachandra Khan spurned him away and disrespected Lord Nityananda. So Lord Nityananda said, this man's house is not worthy of meat eaters. So Ramachandra Khan was cheating the government. So the Muslim government came there, and they, on his mandap, on his altar, they killed a cow. And not only that, but they pilfered and razed and burnt the entire village of Ramachandra Khan to the ground. And in the purport it's written that one who offends a great devotee of the Lord like Haridas Thakur, not only himself will eat the bitter fruit of Vaishnava aparad, but his entire relatives and village will be destroyed by this offense. So it's very, very dangerous to offend the great devotees of the Lord. Namacharya Haridas Thakur ki. So then Haridas Thakur, he went to Shantipur, where Advaitacharya arranged for him to live in a nice cave. So he was living in a nice cave, and there was a poisonous snake in that cave. Anyway, eventually that snake left by Krishna's arrangement, because people would visit Haridas Thakur, such a great devotee of the Lord. So Raghunath Das Goswami, he was very young, and he would go and hear about the glories of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's the son of a very, very wealthy man. His name was Govardhan Majumdara. And they were Kayastas, and they were landowners. And Govardhan Majumdara, every month he would collect a large amount of coins, gold coins. But he was embezzling some of it. 300,000 gold coins he would steal. So instead of taking 1,200,000 gold coins, he would take 1,500,000 gold coins. Anyway, he got into some trouble. So Govardhan Majumdara and his brother Hiranya Majumdara, they were very, very wealthy. And Raghunath Das, he was very, very, very renounced. So in order to, keep him in householder life and keep him as a householder, he arranged the marriage of Raghunath Das Goswami to a very, very beautiful girl. And he thought these things like wealth and the beauty of a beautiful wife will tie him down to household life. So this was going on that as Raghunath Das, one time he met Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on his way to Vrindavan. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, don't be a crazy fellow. You should simply externally behave like a materialistic householder, but internally you can always remember and engage in devotional service. He's actually a Manjari, Rati Manjari, very intimate assistant of Radharani. So after he met Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that time, he became so obsessed with going and associating with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he would constantly be running away from home. But the father had many guards, and the guards would apprehend him and bring him back. And Raghunath Das's mother told his father, we should tie him with ropes. Tie him up with ropes, he keeps running away. But Govardhan Majumdara said, Raghunath Das is tied by the ropes of love of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Who can keep him away from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? And so this was a foreshadowing of things to come. So Raghunath Das, he decided to go and meet Lord Nityananda in Panihati. And he went to Panihati. He was always surrounded by his entourage, guards, assistants and so on. His father always made sure he had a group with him. So he went to see Lord Nityananda. Lord Nityananda was in Panihati by the Ganga. He's sitting on a rock surrounded by all of his devotees, who are all cowherd boys in Krishna Lila. Lord Nityananda is Lord Balaram. And Raghunath Das stayed quite a distance away and offered his respects to Lord Nityananda. And Nityananda's devotees said, "Oh, there's Raghunath Das." And Lord Nityananda said, "You're a thief. You're depriving me of your association, just like a thief." He said, "Why are you hiding over there? Come and see me." So Raghunath Das came and offered his obeisances, and Lord Nityananda put his lotus feet on his head. And there's a painting of this, right, in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Lord Nityananda, being very humorous and funny, said, as a penalty for keeping your distance from me and depriving me of your association, I order you to organize a Chidadadi festival. Chidadadi Mahotsava festival, chip rice and yogurt, chip rice and condensed milk, and feed all the Vaishnavas in this area, all the villages, everyone should be fed. So Raghunath Das started organizing this Chidadadi Mahotsava, and all the shopkeepers would bring chip rice and various pots to keep the prasad in, and he would pay them for these ingredients, but ultimately he would feed them all. The same fellows that sold him the ingredients. So this is quite humorous. So he arranged for large pots of chip rice and yogurt, chip rice and condensed milk for Lord Nityananda and his intimate associates, and these large pots were put around Lord Nityananda. And the festival started. Thousands of Vaishnavas and Brahmins came to partake of this great Chidadadi Mahotsava in Panihati, famous Mahotsava. And then as Lord Nityananda was walking through the crowds, suddenly devotees noticed that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had appeared there in his aprakash form, his unmanifest form. And Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda were hugging each other. And Nityananda would take some chip rice from one of the Vaishnava's pots and feed Lord Nityananda. And then Lord Nityananda would feed Lord Chaitanya from the pots of the Vaishnavas. And this way they were going around. And there were so many Vaishnavas that some of them had to sit inside the Ganga River. There was no space along the banks of the river for them to sit. In this way it was quite humorous. They were having a jolly good time by the Ganga River, eating all the remnants of their devotees and feeding each other these remnants. And then eventually Raghavapani, he showed up. Raghavapani is another great devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's stated that in the kitchen of Raghavapani's house resides Srimati Radharani. And Raghava Pandit had a sister. Her name was Dantari or something like that. Anyway, she said that she was blessed by Radharani, that whatever she cooked would taste like nectar and cause people to fall into ecstasy of love of God. Damayanti, her name was Damayanti. And every year, Raghavapani Damayanti would cook for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was living in Puri, and these preparations were put in bags, and then bags were put in other bags, and this huge array of prasad that Damayanti cooked would be transferred to Jagannath Puri for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to enjoy. It says that when one heard a description of these wonderful ingredients and these wonderful preparations, tears would come to their eyes just by hearing a description of this. and they were called Ragavirajali, the bags of Raghavapani. So Raghavapani then invited Lord Nityananda that after you have this Chittadadi Mahotsav, you should come to my house tonight and have some more prasad. Of course, Lord Nityananda went there and enjoyed this famous prasad of Damayanti. And he was in such ecstasy, he started dancing in the house of Raghavapani. And wherever Lord Nityananda dances, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always comes there in an unmanifest form to see the dazzling dancing of Lord Nityananda. It is so amazing. So he again appeared in the house of Raghavapani to see the dancing of Lord Nityananda. What happened then after the festival, Raghunath Das called one of the officers of Lord Nityananda, and he got a list of all the devotees, all the close associates of Lord Nityananda. He got a list, and for each one they decided how much gold they would give each devotee. And then he allocated various amounts of gold and gold coins or heaps of gold to each devotee of Lord Nityananda. In this way he distributed to the Vaishnavas gold coins, the devotees of Lord Nityananda. Good donations. So then Lord Nityananda blessed Raghunath Das that eventually, very soon, you'll get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. So Nityananda went back to his house, but from that time on he would only sleep on the outer balcony of the house. He'd never go inside. And they had a family guru, Acharya Ratna. And one night, the Acharya, he came to Raghunath Das very late, early in the morning actually, during the Brahma Muhurta. He said, my Pujari has given up his service, so come with me and we have to go and convince this young fellow to come back and do service. And Raghunath Das, as they were walking to the house, Raghunath Das said, don't worry, you go home and rest. It's very late. I'll go to the house. But what he did was he took the opportunity and to run away. So he went into a very unknown path, start walking towards Jagannath Puri. So next morning, of course, they discovered that Raghunath Das had left and abandoned his household life. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would mention later that Raghunath Das abandoned his materialistic life with his very, very wealthy family, just as a person abandons stool in a hole, in a pit. So Raghunath Das took 12 days to walk to Jagannath Puri, and during that time he only had a little bit of milk and he only had 3 meals, or he ate only 3 days out of 12. So when he got to Puri, of course, he was very emaciated and tired, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced him, welcomed him, and said, from now on you'll be known as the Raghunath Das of Swarup Damodar. And he took shelter of Swarup Damodar, and Swarup Damodar was taking notes, writing down notes of Lord Chaitanya's life in Jagannath Puri. So from these notes, Raghunath Das, of course, he was also there observing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's activities daily for so many years. So eventually when Raghunath Das, we're going forward a bit, when he went to Vrindavan after Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's disappearance, he could recite, every day he would sit at Radha Kund, and for 3 hours he would speak the glorious pastimes of Lord Chaitanya in Puri. However, before that, he decided that he would just stand where sadhus would get donations of food every day. So he's standing there, and as the pilgrims came out of the Puri temple, they would give something, or give him some prasadam. And he thought after a while, why am I doing this? It's just like a prostitute waiting for customers to come. Oh, this person will give me something, another person won't, maybe that person like this. And Lord Chaitanya, he knew, he's omniscient, he knew about Raghunath Das's thoughts. He became very pleased when Raghunath Das decided that from this day on, I'm not going to stand there and beg for prasad. At this time, he had renounced the world and he was in the sannyas order. So then Raghunath Das would go to where the shopkeepers would have Jagannath Prasad, and they would wash away or clean the dishes of prasad that they were distributing to the pilgrims, and some rice and so on would be washed down into the sewers. And this rice was so rotten that even the cows of Tailanga, there were cows around Puri, they wouldn't even eat the rice in these sewers. But Raghunath Das, he would take this rice from the sewer and he would polish it, wash it off and polish it. And that would be his foodstuffs, the Jagannath Prasad. So Lord Chaitanya, Swarup Damodar got wind of this. Oh, Raghunath Das, this is really renounced. He was living on these grains from the sewer, which were actually Jagannath Prasad. So Swarup Damodar went there and he grabbed a couple grains and he ate them. He said, oh, this is very, very delicious. Then Lord Chaitanya came there with Swarup Damodar, and as Raghunath Das was eating these washed grains of prasadam from the sewer, Lord Chaitanya grabbed some and he said, where's your character? You're feasting on Jagannath Prasad and you're not sharing it with me? And then Lord Chaitanya was eating more and more, and Swarup Damodar said, no, that's enough, stop. You know, you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's a wonderful pastime. Raghunath Das became known as renunciation personified, and he exemplified what is the meaning of renunciation, the sannyas order of renunciation, that he would eat very, very little. After Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu disappeared, Raghunath Das was so deeply in the mood of separation, so painfully in the mood of separation, that he decided to travel to Vrindavan and jump off of Govardhan Hill and kill himself, commit suicide. So when he went to Vrindavan, he met Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, and they told him, they said, you can't commit suicide. You have to live in Vrindavan and describe all the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because you were associating with him for so many years in Puri, and you also were associating with Swarup Damodar. So Raghunath Das, he was convinced persuaded by the senior Goswamis, Sanatan Rupa, to remain alive, and he wrote a few books about the intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna, but he also would help Krishnadas Kaviraj. He gave all the information of all the daily activities of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Krishnadas Kaviraj, who was directed by the Lord himself, by Lord Nityananda, came to Krishnadas Kaviraj in a dream and said, you have to write the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So from the notes of Swarup Damodar and from the memory of Raghunath Das Goswami, the Chaitanya Charitamrita was written by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. So Raghunath Das was known to be so austere, he would chant 100,000 names every day, 64 rounds, 1 lakh of names of Krishna and Radha and Ram, and he would only sleep 90 minutes a day. And even when he was asleep, he was actually awake. So he only ate a few drops. It said a few drops of buttermilk every day. And after Rupa and Sanatan left the planet, Raghunath Goswami stopped eating. He wouldn't even eat. And in this way, devotees were in such pain because of his emaciated condition. His body was just becoming so thin from not eating. So he was glorified by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as renunciation personified. Vairagya Vijanija Bhakti Yoga Shiksharkam Ekapusha Purana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Sharira Dari Krishambudir Yastomaham Prapadye. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya offers this verse to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead and you have descended to teach Vairagya or detachment from the material world, Vidya, what is knowledge and what is wisdom, and realized knowledge, and Bhakti Yoga, devotion to Lord Krishna, pure devotion, Ahaituki Bhakti. So that is Raghunath Das Goswami's, some stories about him, and it's 9:06. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was empowered by the Lord to write the most authorized description of the life of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And there are descriptions in the Chaitanya Charitamrita a little bit about Krishnadas Kaviraj, how he was told by Lord Nityananda in a dream to write this wonderful classic, the life of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It says here that Krishnadas took Diksha from Raghunath Das Goswami. He lived a renounced life at Syamakund near Manasa Pavanagat, which is Radharani's midday bathing place. Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj, who composed Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, is a connoisseur amongst devotees. His Govinda Lilamrita moves stones to tears. Oh, this is written by Narottam Das Thakur, wrote that Krishnadas Kaviraj is a connoisseur amongst devotees. His Govinda Lilamrita moves stones to tears, but alas, my mind is not attracted to it. During Krishnadas Kaviraj time, all the Vaishnavas would gather at Govindaji temple to hear Sri Haridas Pandit read Sri Chaitanya Bhagavad. Devotees were eager to hear about Lord Gauranga's later pastimes, so they asked Krishnadas Kaviraj to write them. Krishnadas prayed to Madan Mohan for ability and blessing. When he went to offer his obeisances to the deity of Madan Mohan, the garland fell from the neck of Madan Mohan, and the pujari took this garland and placed it around the neck of Krishnadas Kaviraj, who took it as an indication that he had the sanction of Lord Madan Mohan to write the Chaitanya Charitamrita. All glories to all the great Vaishnavas of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna. Thank you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Grace Kripanidhi Prabhu की तो सभी भक्तों से अनुरोध है कि पुष्पांजलि के क्षेत्र में आ जाएं। श्री श्री षट गोस्वामी के मंच के समीप श्री रघुनाथ दास गोस्वामी के इस पावन दिवस पर हम पुष्पांजलि करेंगे। ओम अज्ञान तिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जन शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। श्री चैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोन् श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् इति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेश तारिणे नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती इति नामिने श्रीवार्षभानवी देवी दयिताय कृपाब्धये कृष्ण संबंध विज्ञान दायिने प्रभवे नमः माधुर्योज्ज्वल प्रेमाढ्य श्रीरूपानुग भक्तिदा श्री गौर करुणाशक्ति विग्रहाय नमोस्तुते नमस्ते गौरवाणी श्रीमूर्तये दीनतारिणे रूपानुग विरुद्ध अपसिद्धांत द्वांतहारिणे नमो गौरकिशोराय साक्षात् वैराग्यमूर्तये विप्रलंबर सांबोधे पादाम्बुजायते नमः नमो भक्ति विनोदाय सच्चिदानंद नामिने गौरशक्ति स्वरूपाय रूपानुगवरायते गौराविर्भाव भूमेस्त्वं निर्देष्टा सज्जन प्रियः वैष्णव सार्वभौमः श्री जगन्नाथाय ते नमः वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो महावदान्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः पंचतत्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्त शक्तिकम् हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते जयतां सुरतौ पंग मम वंदमतेर्गतिः मत्सर्वस्वपदाम्बोजौ राधा मदन मोहनौ दिव्यैर्वृन्दारण्य कल्पद्रुमदः श्रीमद्रत्नागार सिंहासनस्थौ श्रीमन् राधा श्रीरघोविन्ददेवो प्रेष्टालिभिः सेव्यमानो स्मरामि श्रीमान् रासरसारम्भी वंशी वटतटस्थितः कर्षन् वेणुः स्वनैर्गोपीः गोपीनाथ श्रीयस्तु नः तप्तकाञ्चन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। अभी षट गोस्वामी का सम्मिलित प्रणाम मंत्र बोलेंगे, एक एक बार आप बोलें और उसके बाद ऐसा पुष्पांजलि समर्पयामि बोलकर पुष्प अर्पित करें, प्रणाम करें और फिर अगली बार के लिए करें। वंदे रूपा सनातनो रघुयुगो श्रीजीव गोपालको एष पुष्पांजलिं समर्पयामि। जय श्री श्री षट गोस्वामी प्रभु वृंद की। वंदे रूप सनातनो रघुयुगो श्रीजीव गोपालको एष पुष्पांजलिं समर्पयामि। वंदे रूप सनातनो रघुयुगो श्रीजीव गोपालको एष पुष्पांजलिं समर्पयामि। जय श्री श्री षट गोस्वामी प्रभु वृंद की। श्री रघुनाथ दास गोस्वामी पाद की। निधाय निधाय गौर सीतानाथ प्रेमानंदे।
संसार दावानल लीडलोका तरणाय कारुण्य घना घना तुम। प्राप्तस् कल्याण गुणाणवास्य वन्दे गुरु श्री चरणारविन्दम्। महाप्रभु कीर्तन नित्य गीता वादित्रमाद्यान् मनसोरसेना। रोमाञ्चकम्पा शुतरङ्गभाजो वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् श्रीविग्रहाराधन नित्यनाना शृङ्गारतन्मन्दिर्मार्जना दोषिविग्रह युक्तस्य भक्तान् चानुञ्जतोऽपि वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् युक्तस्य भक्तान् जतो विधा श्री भगवत्प्रसादो स्वादन तृप्तान् हरिभक्तसङ्घान् जतो विधा श्री कीर्ते बतेप्तिं भजता सदैवा वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् कीर्ते बतेप्ति शिवाधिका माधवयोरपारो माधुरलीला गुणरूप नाम्नां शिवाधिका शिवाधिका माधवयोरपारो माधुरलीला गुणरूप नाम्नां शिवाधिका प्रतीक्षणा स्वादन लोलुपस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् प्रतीक्षणा वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् 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 वन्दे गुरो निकुञ्जयो नो रतिकेली सिद्धये यायलिभीर्यो तिरपेक्षणीया निकुञ्जयो नो तत्रादिदाक्षा अतिबलभास्यात् वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् तत्रादिदाक्षा साक्षाधरित्वेन समस्तशास्त्रे उक्तस्तथा भाव यतैव साधुभिः साक्षात् हरित्वेन समस्त किन्तु प्रभोर्या प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरो श्री चरणारविन्दं किन्तु प्रभोर्या यस्य प्रसादो भगवत्प्रसादो यस्य प्रसादा न गति कुतोऽपि यस्य प्रसादा भगवत्प्रसादो दयन्तु वन्तस्य यस्य त्रिसन्ध्यां वन्दे गुरो श्री चरणारविन्दं दयन्तु वन्तस्य वन्दे गुरो श्री चरणारविन्दं वन्दे गुरो श्री चरणारविन्दं वन्दे गुरो श्री वन्दे गुरो श्री चरणारविन्दं वन्दे गुरो श्री चरणारविन्दं वन्दे गुरो नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमो विष्णुपदाय नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पश्चादिष्टारिणे नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसदि गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 जय प्रभुपदा 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 जय प्रभुपदा 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 गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव गुरुदेव जय नित्य लीला प्रविष्टों विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य अस्तोत्तर शतशेष मत्सला भई चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शिला प्रभुपाद की इस्कॉन फाउंडर आचार्य शिला प्रभुपाद की बीबीटी फाउंडर आचार्य शिला प्रभुपाद की जगत गुरु शिला प्रभुपाद की जय नित्य लीला प्रविष्टों विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य अस्तोत्तर शतशेष मत्सला भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद ठाकुर की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद के नामाचार्य शिला हरिदास ठाकुर के प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद के श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन के भक्ति देवी तुलसी महारानी के गंगा माई यमुना माई के मथुरा वृंदावन धाम के नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम के नीलाचल क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम के श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा महारानी के श्री राधा पार्थसारथी जी के श्री सीताराम लक्ष्मण हनुमान जी के श्री गौर निताय के श्री सत गोस्वामी वृंद के समवेत भक्त वृंद के ताई गौर प्रेमानंदे all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.